Great job in downloading the infographic that outlines 5 simple and effective strategies for de-escalating behavior. Since complexity is the enemy of both execution and scalability, we've created this easy-to-use infographic to help you along the way. In this video, I'm going to walk you through these 5 strategies, all of which are grounded in the science of human behavior as a means of reducing, intensifying, and dangerous behavior. But first, you would probably like to know who I am. My name is Dr. Paul Gavoni. My friends call me Paulie. As a former administrator, therapist, coach, behavior analyst, mental health coordinator, and crisis management practitioner across educational and mental health settings for 25 years, I've worked across a number of schools and treatment facilities to increase safety and morale by improving the climate and culture of the organization. While always well-intended, I'd be lying if I said I didn't inadvertently screw some things up along the way. Thankfully, armed with the science of human behavior, I was fortunate enough to learn from my errors and turn a number of problems into practical solutions. As an international speaker, Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling author, I've been able to share my experiences along with effective strategies for improving behavior in schools across the world, which is exactly what I will do in this video. Okay, enough about me. Let's talk about good people doing the wrong thing, like I did. Listen, I know how tough it can be in facilities and schools when it comes to dealing with problematic behavior, especially when they begin intensifying. Unfortunately, staff use strategies like verbally telling individuals to calm down as a means of de-escalating. If this worked, there would be no need for strategies as it's what everybody does. The fact is, this approach typically has exactly the opposite effect. Like me, it's not that these staff weren't well intended, but it's not about intention, is it? It's about impact. The reason these staff likely use these strategies is because they do not have a comprehensive toolbox for dealing with escalated behavior. Sadly, it's not unusual for teacher or staff morale to be negatively impacted as a result of a constant barrage of student or client behaviors that they are unable to manage. These behaviors might occur when these individuals become angry, afraid, or frustrated. Like everybody, they want an environment characterized by happiness, learning, and pro-social behavior. To address these issues, general de-escalation strategies are the most common approach put forth by crisis management organizations for both calming people down and attempting to move them back to their typical levels of functioning. While de-escalation strategies are necessary, they should also become less necessary as crisis management practitioners continue to learn more about each individual and reduce instances of escalation through prevention strategies. Sorry to say, most other crisis management systems start at de-escalation but do not teach comprehensive prevention strategies as instructed in professional crisis management and everyday behavior tools. But even with a primary focus on de-escalation, their strategies are questionable because they lack precision in both recognizing and responding to nuanced increases in escalating behavior. Moreover, the procedures they teach for addressing the cycle of crisis often do not align with the guiding principles or values they espouse. Speaking of the cycle of crisis, let's take a quick look at it. It's easy to recognize people who are visibly angry, mad, yelling, threatening, or perhaps cursing. However, other signs of escalation may look very harmless but can get much worse very quickly. Before we jump into the strategies, it's important to understand that there is a continuum of behaviors that occur within the cycle of behavioral crisis. When an individual begins escalating, they can move into what we call pre-crisis that includes overt behaviors or things you can see and covert behaviors or the things you can't see. These are the thoughts, emotions, and physiological responses like increased heart rate and body temperatures that an individual might be experiencing as they move towards a crisis. These are private events that only the individual can observe when they're beginning to escalate. But while crisis management practitioners can't observe all things, they can observe changes in behavior that deviate from the individual's typical stable functioning. For example, if a student began escalating, the educator might note they are off task, and while they can't observe their unreasonable thoughts, if If the teacher asked the student to return to their task and the student calmly and appropriately responded, "Why do I have to do schoolwork? It's stupid," this might be an indicator that they are in pre-crisis level 1 if this is a change from their typical behavior. If their physiology begins to heighten as evidenced by perhaps tightened facial expressions or a rigid posture, this might indicate they are moving into pre-crisis level 2. If their behavior continues to increase in intensity, but they are not engaging in crisis behaviors like continuous aggression or self-injurious behavior, this may be an indicator that they have moved to pre-crisis level 3. Individuals in pre-crisis level 3 are the least likely to follow instructions or to be redirected, as they are almost out of control and might go into a crisis within seconds. PCM carries a number of precise staff responses for addressing behaviors at each of these pre-crisis levels to effectively prevent a crisis from occurring. But now let's take a look at those 5 simple and effective strategies for de-escalation as highlighted in the infographic that brought you to this video in the first place. Strategy number 1, change the task or activity. Changing tasks is one of the many practical PCM de-escalation strategies that can quickly calm an individual and help them return back to a task. While there are a variety of ways that tasks can be changed, it is important to understand the reason why the individual is off task in the first place. Perhaps it's a motivation issue linked to boredom with the activity, or maybe it's what's being asked of the individual in the moment is simply too hard, or perhaps they are just too tired. Changing the task or activity is a good strategy to use during pre-crisis level 1 as indicated in the cycle of crisis. But be careful not to change to a highly preferred activity, as this might actually increase the future occurrence of off-task and otherwise escalated behavior as the individual learns, hey, if I want those things I really enjoy, all I need to do is engage in these types of behaviors in order to get them. And be sure to analyze the situation and make any needed adjustments as a future preventive strategy. For example, scaling back the level of complexity of future math work if it is determined that the student has not reached that skill level as of yet. Strategy 2, proximity can be used as both a prevention and de-escalation strategy. While proximity can be combined with the other de-escalation strategies, sometimes proximity alone is sufficient for the desired behavior change. This can be powerful for an individual who seems volatile or has a history of escalating quickly, and when the staff has established a good relationship. To use proximity, approach the individual casually and in a non-threatening way, avoiding direct eye contact or staring at them. Using proximity only means getting closer to the person, but in no way interacting or prompting them. This approach helps eliminate any additional attention for off-task behavior and avoids conflict. By the way, if it's suspected that the individual is attention-seeking, be sure to simply increase attention for on-task behavior as a prevention strategy. Strategy number 3. When introducing a new or more difficult task, the probability of off-task behavior increases. This probability can be decreased simply by asking an individual to do a few simple tasks before asking them to do something more difficult or unpreferred. For instance, if a student was off task and agitated because they had to do math, the teacher might ask the student to first pull out a piece of paper and then ask that they put their name on it before introducing the more difficult tasks in the assignment itself. Or maybe instead of asking them to do 10 more challenging math problems, they actually start by asking them to do just a simple one. Strategy number 4, offering choices. Also a good prevention strategy, strengthens self-determination and independence while reducing the likelihood of escalating behavior. For those who feel like they have no choice at all, having the smallest choice might make things better. While not recommended as a routine procedure for de-escalating due to the risk of potentially reinforcing pre-crisis behavior, providing limited choices may prevent the individual from continuing to escalate. For example, if a child was upset that they had to get up at 6:45 a.m. to make it to school on time, the parent might state, "Jose, if you skip watching your cartoon show this morning, you can stay in bed an extra half hour and make it to school on time. You choose." In this example, Jose was given a choice to get up early and watch his cartoon show or stay in bed longer, but the expectation was that he would be going to school. The final strategy, strategy number 5, includes modeling, mirroring, and shaping. This comes in 3 parts. Modeling simply refers to the demonstration of desired behavior. Mirroring refers to the natural tendency for people to copy or mimic the behavior of others, especially those that they like and respect. And shaping simply refers to reinforcing small approximation towards the desired behavioral goals. A very effective use of this strategy can be when an individual begins speaking loudly and in an agitated voice. The staff attempting to de-escalate might simply begin speaking in a quieter and calmer voice. Based on the tendency of people to mimic, there are greater chances that the individual will mirror the staff's calmer, more controlled, and quieter manner. This puts the staff in a position where they can then reinforce the student as they mirror them by attending to them and perhaps saying something like, "Hey, thanks for bringing your voice down. Let's see what we can do to work through this." At PCMA, our guiding principles include maximizing dignity and respect, eliminating pain and minimizing distress, minimizing restriction and offering choices, and giving feedback while providing alternatives. We do not just talk the talk, but we walk the walk. This is evidenced by the numerous strategies that are directly aligned with these principles that our practitioners can choose from so they can respond in precisely the right way at precisely the right time. To find out more about how you can bring the safest, most effective, and humane crisis management solution in the world to your school or facility, click on the link below. Be safe.